Hi everyone, I'm Don Lemon. I'm a journalist, I'm a TV host, but most importantly, I have a passion for facilitating candid conversations like the one we're about to have today. So welcome to the Elizabeth Taylor AIDS Foundation's HIV Is Not a Crime Roundtable, where we're going to be discussing stories, we're going to discuss science and solutions in this issue area, because HIV criminalization is an issue that impacts so many of our friends, our family, and neighbors than we know. So where do we start? Why don't we start with you, Robert? In order to discuss this, I want to sort of frame the roundtable today around Louisiana. It's the second highest incarceration rate in the country. How many people we incarcerate? That's quite a distinction, and I don't mean that in a good way. But Robert, please talk to us a bit about how this represents something much bigger, whether the scale of HIV criminalization is actually a symptom of a larger broken system.
Yes, it's good to have this conversation with you, Don. During the 80s, this is a time of crisis. You know, we're just coming out of the civil rights era. We're coming out of the Stonewall riots, you know, about gay liberation and things like that. And we're constantly continuing to deal with race issues. And then we're coming into the war on drugs. And so there's been different periods of where a lot of different crises and some victories were happening, and yet AIDS was happening. And so at a time where there was compassion, thank God for the LGBTQ community and their advocacy, otherwise we wouldn't probably have the medications that we have today if they did not start that.
Yeah.
And so as this epidemic is rolling out and people are thinking that it's a gay disease, it's also spreading to impact other communities. But the thing that I like to emphasize is that the people didn't create HIV or they didn't create AIDS. This is something that just was happening. And I think that our governments decided to exploit this issue in a way that was not healthy, where it should have been focused on care, but they were deciding to address the issue with criminalization. And so for, well, 40 years now, over 40 years now, the narrative has been set that people living with HIV are dangerous people.
Yeah. It's easier to blame, you know, usually the folks who are helpless and who have the smallest voice. I mean, LaShonda, you're from the South, and
yes,
so
sir.
You can relate to this as well.
Well, I just have to piggyback on everything that Robert said, because, you know, just because I have HIV or whatever, I'm not a criminal. I'm none of that, and neither are any of us here.
You had to join the sex offense registry?
I did. Wow. Actually, what had happened, I was in a relationship for about a year. And before me and the gentleman even laid eyes on each other, I told him I was HIV positive. After we broke up about 6 months later, he goes and filed charges against me stating I didn't tell him that I was HIV positive.
So what did you have to do in order to make this dream you had to come off of the registry, to this dream to be realized?
Well, I got in touch with Nashville Cares in Nashville, Tennessee. In 2023, they sent in a bill that requested for the sex offender registry part to be taken off of that law. And in 2023, thank God, I came off of the sex offender registry. I researched my name and I couldn't find anything. I couldn't find my picture, my name, nothing.
Congratulations. Yeah. So Sanjay, you also have your experience with being arrested, right? And also being stigmatized online as well.
Sure. In August of 2017, I was arrested in front of my apartment doorstep. I happened to be reported, I guess, a few months before from the individual claiming I did not disclose my status to him. Even though I did, that's how he was able to report me. I was angry due to the wording for the charge, because on the charge it says knowingly and exposing someone's HIV. So a person's first thought is that you did, you know, infect someone, that's not the case. It's more to the story. So now I'm having to humanize myself, because again, online I was dehumanized.
But there are, even with that, there are still barriers in your states that you have to deal with, right?
Yes. So in Arkansas, you know, being criminalized is up to 30 years in prison, a $15,000 fine, and or having to register as a sex offender, even though it's not really on it, but they can do that as well. For my case, they wanted to drop the case completely. The prosecutor did, but his superior would not allow that. So it dropped from a felony to an aggravated assault and had to plead no contest, which means that, of course, I didn't have to register as a sex offender. I was on a 5-year probation from February 2019, and it ended March of this year.
Robert?
Across this country, we have 30 plus states now that have these laws, and some states are HIV specific, some do prosecute people under general criminal laws. And then also there's states that may prosecute people under what we call sentence enhancement, meaning that if you're arrested for any other type offenses, for some reason your HIV status comes up just in the interaction, then your sentence can be enhanced in certain states. So those are like just 3 categories of how HIV criminalization is enforced across various states across this country.
So, Robert, you were sharing earlier about being incarcerated for your health status, and it resonates because 88% of U.S. adults have substandard rates of health literacy. That's problematic when you put it into context of HIV criminalization, because if you don't understand HIV, the risk and the route to transmission, the science, then you're likely going to support the criminalization of HIV. Let me bring in Julie and Joel into this conversation. You both have unique healthcare perspectives as a nurse and as a chair of the Gilead Pro Bono program. You said that you've never believed that HIV was a crime.
That's correct. As a nursing perspective, as a healthcare professional who was educated about transmission and how HIV is transmitted, also, by taking your antiretroviral therapy for at least 6 months, it means you can be undetectable. Your viral load is not shown in a simple blood test.
So then, as a healthcare professional, a provider, explain to us about the transmission of HIV. How is it transmitted?
So HIV is transmitted either by, if you have sex with another individual, by certain body fluids, seminal fluid, blood products. You could also have it transmitted intravenously. So it's very important to be undetectable and to have medication. And, that's a protection for us and for other people. And there's a lot of misconceptions of, you're a virus and you're just automatically going to transmit. And that's not true today.
Joel, I'm going to bring you in. Can you talk to us about some of the medical and scientific advancements that have been made by Gilead and other leaders in the field?
Absolutely. So at Gilead and with our collaborators and partners, it's our mission to end the epidemic for everyone, everywhere. HIV care is a continuum, and it starts with prevention, or pre-exposure prophylaxis, referred to as PrEP. One of the issues that has come up with the daily regimens is that they need to be taken every day. And so one of the developments that we're really focused on is long acting. And we actually have an exciting development focused on 6 months, so twice a year. There's also post-exposure prophylaxis, or PEP. So if within 72 hours of exposure to HIV, someone takes an antiretroviral therapy that's recommended, they can prevent that acquisition of HIV after exposure. And then from diagnosis, there's treatment options. And the objective there is to, as quickly as possible, get on an effective antiretroviral therapy that can suppress the viral load to undetectable levels, or less than 200 copies. And ultimately, we're working towards a cure.
Yeah, you guys are doing the work. All of you are doing the work, but it's important. The legal part of it is important. The science important as well. Not only have you all been personally impacted by HIV criminalization, it hasn't stopped you from creating change. I find that amazing that you guys are still here standing strong and creating change. How do we continue to decriminalize HIV?
Ways that we can continue to decriminalize, I would say globally, recognizing that the gap in the HIV response is upholding human rights. And that's pretty much what we're talking about, people's rights as humans to exist in whatever identity they hold. The other part of that is just more continuing to educate people about these issues, because people aren't taking the liberty to learn them on their own. And so it's important for us as advocates and those that want to work with us continue to uplift this issue.
That's a very good point. And so I'm going to ask you, right, because you do the work, you said pro bono, right? What would be the difference between an individual being charged with a felony rather than a misdemeanor?
Yeah, so a felony carries significantly more jail time potentially. Just to bring home how serious and recent this is, we recently saw someone being charged with assault with a deadly weapon as a third strike in California, which would carry a mandatory minimum of 25 years to life based on HIV and the transmission through saliva, which is impossible. And to kind of underscore what you can do about it, what people can do about it, we sent a letter to the district attorney, one-page letter, laid out the science, quoted the CDC, and within 2 weeks, we got a response back from the DA who said, we're gonna drop the HIV crime from a felony to a misdemeanor, so remove the HIV element of the crime, and we are no longer gonna prosecute HIV crimes in the county. And so just to underscore that I think a lot of people don't know this and just need to be educated, and anybody could do that in their area.
So I want to thank all of you. This is a fascinating conversation. So thank you, LaShonda.
Thank you.
Thank you, Joel. Thank you, Robert, Sanjay, Julie. You guys were amazing. It is through conversations like these that we are able to remember the humanity of our friends, our neighbors, our loved ones, and ourselves. We can all be more prepared to inform ourselves, our communities, and our policymakers that HIV is not a crime.